Alright, what is up everybody? We are back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today, we're doing a video talking about every team's expectations for next year. This is not what I think every team is going to be, but this is kind of what the expectations are for around every team going into next season. We're going to put it all into a tier list. That's what we're doing here in today's video. And themed here, we have, I forgot I had this beanie. Well, not really a beanie, but a bean on it. But all NBA teams. We're talking about everybody today. All the expectations going into next season here today. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. I really appreciate it. If you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, like, turn notifications, do all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. Really upset a lot. Join the membership. If you want to learn more about the membership, there's a video on my channel explaining all of it. You can go back and watch that. Links to my Twitter, all that stuff down in the description below. And yeah, don't waste any more of your time. Let's get right into it. Alright, so here we are. We have all 30 teams right here. And this is the tier list that we have. So first we'll explain each tier and then we'll get into it. So first got championship. This is teams that are expected to, if they're not in the finals, or they have the highest expectations. Like we all expect this team, you know, regular season kind of doesn't really matter. It's about getting to that championship and winning a championship. Next we have a long playoff run. Teams that maybe aren't championship expectations, but teams that, you know, need to start winning some series. They need to, you know, go on a big run, maybe make it to the finals, make it to a conference finals, you know, get a little bit far, win a couple series. Then we have playoff tier. There's teams that are just like, you know, if they make the playoffs and they're in the playoffs, that's cool. You know, maybe not expected to win any series or anything like that, but just making it into the playoffs is cool. Then we have play-in. Teams that are expected to be like, you know, if they make it to the play-in, you know, but lose out, then, you know, just being a 7 through 10 seed, that's cool. Meh. Teams that kind of don't really have a lot of expectation. Teams that are just like, you know, we just want to see them better than last year. Really, like teams that maybe won 19 games, just want to see them get to 28. You know, maybe not make a play-in run, but just be better than the worst of the worst. And then number one pick, teams that have the lowest expectations, just go out and tank. Get the number one pick. We just want to see your young players develop, type of stuff. All right. So yeah, let's get into it. We'll start with the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks did do some changes this summer. Obviously, trading out DeJounte Murray, bringing in Sachet. Right now, I expect playoffs. I expect playoffs as their goal. Yeah, I'll put playoffs expectations for them. I mean, of course, they want to get back to that conference finals they made a couple years ago, but that's not really realistic. Realistically, playoffs, if this team is a playoff team, then that's a good season, I think, for them. If this team is a playoff team, I think that's pretty good. I think they could potentially sneak in as an 8 seed or whatever, but I would say playoffs for the Atlanta Hawks, I'm guessing. Also, let me know down in the comments below what your expectations are for certain teams, or maybe what your team and all that stuff. You know, I'd like to hear it. Boston Celtics, obviously, championship. They just won a championship. Now it's, all right, do it again. Of course, that's the easiest one we probably have on here. Championship expectations. The Nets, number one pick. There are no expectations on the Nets. The Nets are expected to be the worst team in the league, and if they're not, then that'll be a big surprise. But right now, no expectations on the Brooklyn Nets. Just be bad, you know, and go get that number one pick. The Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets, I feel like, are in between the play-in and the meh tier. You know, they've been in the play-in before. They have a decent team. If they don't make the play-in, though, I wouldn't be... Honestly, the Hornets are a team that depends on how they look. Like, if LaMelo's there and they look like an okay-ish team, but they don't make the play-in, I'm not going to be like, man, you know. Like, I'm not going to be like that. But, again, they made the play-in before with LaMelo and Miles Bridges and them. And now they have Brandon Miller. They have an okay-ish team, you know. Like, they shouldn't be the worst of the worst anymore unless injuries happen. I'll go... it's like in between. It's like in between men, but it's like if they don't make the play, I'm not going to be so crazy. But I want to see them better than last year. And they should be better than last year. You know, especially if LaMelo's there and playing. So I'll go... I'll keep them in meh for now, but of course you can always go back and change things. So if, you know, if I see how this list turns out and I want to move them up, then I might. But right now we'll stick them in meh. The Bulls. Honestly, the Bulls, I don't really have expectations for the Bulls. Like, the Bulls should not be expecting to be a playoff team. or maybe even playing team. Honestly, for the Bulls, if I'm the Bulls, I want to tank. Kind of, I want to tank and get a good pick this year. But realistically, I got to think of what the team expects them to do as well, and everything. I want to put them in number one pick contention, even though I do think they're substantially better than the Brooklyn Nets, though, and they're gonna be better than probably a lot of other teams I put in the number one pick category. So I'll put them in. I guess I'll put them in meh. I'll put them in meh. The Cavs, put them in a long playoff run. They've been in the first round after a couple years in a row. They just locked in their team of Darius, Donovan. You gave Mobley, Jared Allen some extensions, so they're locked in. This is the team. They brought in Kenny Atkinson. Their goal is, okay, win a series or two. Last year they made it to the second round. It's another, long playoff run, maybe a conference finals appearance. In a tough Eastern Conference, a tough top-heavy Eastern Conference. But the Cavs' expectations right now are like, all right, we know you can be a good team. Now you got to just stay healthy and have a good playoff run. The Mavs, championship. They were in the NBA Finals last year. They have arguably the best player in the world right now, and Luka Doncic. Their goals now are like, all right, make it back there. And they're a team in the finals that year, and in my opinion, they got better. We're getting Clay, Quentin Grimes, Najee Marshall. So championship expectations. The Nuggets, also championship expectations. They won a ring 2 years ago. Last year was a very tough exit in Game 7 of the second round. Their goals right now, they have, again, arguably the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic. Championship expectations. The Pistons, they're going meh. Honestly, I kind of made the meh tier for the Pistons because I don't think they're going to be a playing team. But I'm not expecting them to be a competent 35-win team or anything like that. But just be better than that. Don't win 14 games. Win if they can get to 24, 25 wins, I think that's a good season for the Pistons. Just don't be horrible. The Warriors. Now, the Warriors are an interesting one because obviously when you have Steph Curry and you've done the things that the Warriors have done over the past couple of years, the goals and the expectations obviously are very high. But compared to the rest of the Western Conference, realistically, they're not going to be a top team in the West. They're not going to be a championship team. I'll be surprised if they even if they make the playoffs. I think that would be a good, this is a tough one. And there's probably going to be a couple teams kind of like this with the Warriors where it's like they still have a certain player and they've done certain things in the past that makes it seem like, the expectations are going to be high. But realistically, looking at their team, there's no way they're going to reach those expectations. So because the Warriors, obviously, they've won 4 rings in the past decade. They have Steph Curry, who's arguably one of the greatest players to ever play the game. And so, obviously, their goals are going to be up here. But with their team, realistically, if they make it to the playoffs, honestly, I think that's a success for the Warriors with this type of team in a Western Conference this stacked. So, do I put them in the middle then? I'll have a long playoff run. This is hard. This is hard. I'm gonna put them. This is gonna be one of the comments I'm gonna have to decide. The comments are gonna really, show what they think the Warriors' expectations are. But for me personally, their championship window is closed. Right now, their championship window, there's no way they're making it back to an NBA Finals with this roster. No way. I think playoffs would be I think if they get out of the play-in and maybe get to the playoffs and have a competent playoff first round, if they lose, at least if it's competitive, I think that's a good season with this roster. But again, with Steph Curry on your team, obviously you want more, So I'm going to go... I'll put him in the middle then. I'll go long playoff run. But then again, it is expectation coming into this season. I'll go playoffs. I'm going to put him in playoff. I'll put him in playoff. The Rockets, for them, it's the playoffs. They said immediately, for them, it's the playoffs. For me, playing. If they don't make the playoffs, I'm not going to be super mad if I'm the Houston Rockets. I think playing, if they can get into that playing mix, maybe they win the first game, lose the second game. I think that's a good season for them. I think that's a really good season. I'll put them in playing. The Pacers. Now, Pacers are a tough one because they made it to the conference finals last year. Kind of similar to the Warriors, where it's they made it that far, but I don't expect them to make it back there. Like they got a lot of help from injuries and stuff. So and with the again a top heavy Eastern Conference that contains a lot of really good teams at the top of the East. I'm not expecting the Pacers to make it to the conference finals. Really, I'm not expecting that. So, or I'm gonna put them in long play. I have to put them in long playoff because if they make the playoffs, I'm like, okay, cool. So I gotta put them in long playoff run again. I gotta put them in long playoff run. The Clippers. The Clippers are very similar to the Warriors, where the expectations they have the last couple of years are always high, and they never hit them. Now they lost Paul George. Kawhi's status is still kind of up in the air. We don't know. James Harden. They're still moving like they're a team with high expectations. Even though, look at the roster. I don't expect they're not a lock for the playoffs. So I'll put the Clippers in playoffs as well. I'll put Clippers. I don't think they're as high expectations as the Warriors, but yeah, the Lakers. They're good long playoff run. I think their expectations. I think championship also is in the question because you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and that's what they're here for. And when you're the Lakers, you just have a high standard, regardless. But in terms of this Laker team, if they make it to a conference finals, I think that's okay for me. If I'm the Grizzlies, this is a tough one because again, last year they were a 27-win team. They're bringing back a team that is consistently one of the top teams in the West. Again, with a year off of contention, do I want to put that high expectation of if they don't make it out of the first round, it's a disappointing season? I'll go playoffs for them. I'll like it a little bit because again, you got to think. Last year they didn't really play 9 games. Desmond Bain was there. No one on their real roster was playing real minutes besides Jaren Jackson Jr. So it's like they took a year off of contention. They're back now. Trying to get things back organized. I'm not gonna really put if the Grizzlies don't make it out of the first round. I'm not gonna be like, oh my god. Well, also it depends. If they're like a top 4 seed in the West and they lose in the first round, then maybe. But if they're like a 6 seed and they lose in the first round to like a 3 seed Nuggets or whatever, I'm not gonna be like, man, what a failure of a season. I think it's the year after this that's really gonna be like, all right, that's the year. For me personally. If you think different, let me know down in the comment section. I'll put them in playoff. The Heat, it's a long playoff run. They still have Jimmy. They still have Bam. They still have that team. Like it's different from the Warriors and the Clippers because the Warriors and Clippers don't have the same team anymore. The Heat have the same team still that have made it to the NBA Finals before. So now that they've shown they can do it twice, it's a long playoff run again. Bucks championship. They won a championship a couple years ago. Giannis and Damian Lillard, especially after that disappointment of a year last year, the expectations are very, very high in Milwaukee. That's obvious. The Timberwolves. Timberwolves going to go on a long playoff run. I don't think it's championship yet. They did make the big move, bringing in Julius Randle, Donovan DiVincenzo. They still should be one of the top teams in the West. And yeah, making it. They were in the conference finals last year. Making it around there to the conference finals again is the goal. So a long playoff run. The Pelicans. They're like, I don't expect the Pelicans to go on a conference finals run, but I also, if they lose in the first round again, it's all context. It depends on how they lose. Like any team, like if they lose in the first round, it's tough, but it depends on how they lose. Like if it's a tough 7-game series and they just lose on just like one player going crazy, then it's kind of like dang. But if they get destroyed and beat like the Suns last year, then it's like, oh my gosh. The Pelicans are like in between because I expect them to be a playoff team, but I don't expect them to go on a conference finals. Like if they can win a series, or maybe take a team to 7 games in the first round, I think that's a solid year for the Pelicans. So I'm gonna go. I'll go playoffs just so that we can see, because they made it to the playoffs last year, but they weren't fully healthy. If they're fully healthy, can make it back to the playoffs and give a team a good first round series, or maybe even win a first round series. I think that's pretty good. But I'm not gonna put expectations of having to make it all the way to the conference finals on this New Orleans team. The Knicks. The Knicks are interesting because the way they're building this team and the way they're talking, it sounds like championship expectations. But realistically, if they don't make the finals this year, I'm not going to be super mad or disappointed in the Knicks, especially after the Karl Anthony Towns trade. So I kind of want to put them in long playoff run. Yeah, if the Knicks make they lost in the second round last year. If the Knicks make the conference finals, that's a successful year for the Knicks. So I'll put them in long playoff run. OKC also gonna put them in long playoff run, even though a lot of people, they probably will be one of the top teams in the league record wise and all that stuff. If OKC doesn't make it to a final, I'm not gonna be super mad and disappointed. I think if they make it to a conference finals, I think that's a pretty nice, solid year. So I'll put OKC in long playoff run. The Magic, I'm gonna put them in playoffs for the Magic. Um, I don't want to put high expectations on Orlando right now. They're still such a young team. Last year was kind of a year where they just kind of blew up out of nowhere. It became a really good team. So I'm not stressed out on Orlando having to make it to a second round, having to make it to a conference final right away. For the Magic, I'm like, if they make it to the playoffs again, have another really good first round series, but just lose out to a better team like the Knicks or the Bucks or something, then it's like, all right, yeah. The 76ers. The 76ers, they're also kind of similar to like the Knicks, where it's like the way they're talking, it's champ. You know what? The Sixers, I'm gonna put championship expectations on the Sixers. The way they're talking, they bought in Paul George. They're making all the moves. They have Joel Embiid, who's one of the best players in the league. I don't expect it to happen all in year one, which is why I kind of want to put them in long play. Like after this season, 2026, yes, it's championship. Same for the Knicks. I feel same for the Thunder. Like after this season, if they have another year that we expect them to have another year and they lose in the conference finals, after that, then it's like, all right, championship. For the Sixers, I want to put them in championship, but it's kind of similar where I'm like, I'm not expecting in year one of Paul George, in year one of this team, everything just comes together and they go all the way right away. You know, like no team's written. That doesn't really happen. The last time it's happened is like what? Last time that happened was Kawhi and Nick Nurse and the Raptors. That was the last time that happened where a team was just kind of thrown together and they just went all the way the first year. Boston already had Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White. They just added in Porzingis and Holiday around the edges. Milwaukee already had Giannis, Middleton, and all that stuff. They just needed to add Drew Holiday in. The Nuggets had the same team. So it's like, I'm not expecting a team right away, year one, throwing things together just to shoot up and be a championship team right away. Again, that doesn't really happen that often. Usually it takes about a year to really get everything set. And then the year after, it's like, okay, now, like next year, the Sixers are going to have championship expectations. But right now, I don't know. Like, if they don't win a championship this year, I'm not going to be like, oh, man. But they do have conference finals, I think, should be the Sixers at least should be the conference finals. Like, if they lose in the second round again, which is why I want to put them in championship, because I feel like the Sixers, it's higher than an OKC to me. It's higher than Minnesota to me. It's dang near, it might be even higher than New York to me. Honestly, like the Sixers expectations might be low because the Sixers have been doing it for longer than the Knicks, for me personally. So, I'll put them in championship. I'm gonna put Sixers in championship expectations. I'm sorry, that might be a little bit unfair. I don't know. I'll put them in championship expectations. The Suns, a long playoff run for me. They near also are in championship expectations, but I'll put them in a long playoff run. Portland, I'll put them in meh. I didn't want to put them in number one pick contention, even though I think they probably are going to be like that. But I don't. But I just want to see the youth develop. I want to see Scoot have a better year too. Shaden Sharp have a better year. Donovan Clingan do his thing. Danny have a good year. Chris Murray. Like I kind of want to put him in number one pick. I'll put him in meh, I guess. The Kings, playoffs for me. They missed the playoffs last year. I just want make it back to the playoffs. They don't need to go to the conference finals, just win a playoff series. The Spurs, I'm gonna put the Spurs in. I'm bringing Portland down to number one pick expectations. For the Spurs, I don't. Only because the Western Conference is so stacked. If the Spurs are an 11 seed, I'm not really gonna be so crazy about it. Like as long as the Spurs aren't the worst team in the West or 14 seed, if they're between like 11, 12, I think that's good for the Spurs. Like obviously playing would be nice, but again, with the context of how deep the Western Conference is right now, I'm not expecting the Spurs right away to get Chris Paul and all of a sudden they're a playoff team, or even a playing team. Like if they are just better, if they're like a 34, 35 win team, I think that's cool. The Raptors, I'm also going to put in meh. The way they're talking, their expectations are very, very low. But I think this is a very solid team. I mean, Scotty, IQ, and RJ, I think, can be good, you know. The Jazz. I might also put the Jazz in meh. You know, even though it might dang near be playing, maybe, because of the money they gave Larry Marketing and all that stuff. But I'll put them in meh. And the Wizards, #1 pick contention. Just be bad, go get that star piece, you know. So yeah, yeah, I'm fine with this. Only one team being in the play makes me want to delete this tier and put the Rockets like down and meh. But then again, I have higher expectations of the Rockets than the Bulls and the Pistons and the Hornets. So the Rockets are just kind of the only team that's just in the middle, where it's like, yeah, if they make a play, that's cool. The Spurs almost are there too. So are the Hornets, you know, and the Jazz. But I wouldn't be as super mad or as disappointed if the Spurs and Jazz don't make the play-in as if the Rockets don't make the play-in. You know what I mean? So yeah, I guess this is the list. If you think differently, let me know down in the comment below what your expectations are for certain teams and, you know, what your list would be. But yeah, that's going to be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, like, turn notifications, do all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. Really helps out a lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.